Ethan Cross thought his past was buried the day she walked out of his life, signing the papers without a tear. Without a word, 3 years later, the Billionaire CEO stepped into a hospital for a charity inspection and froze. A nurse handed him a child's medical chart, same rare blood type as his, same last name he'd tried to forget. The boy lay in the ICU, small hand clutching a faded photo of a woman Ethan once loved. The woman who vanished after ending their marriage. His world, built on control and numbers, cracked under one truth. The child was his. But where was she? And why had she hidden his son from him? In a single heartbeat, business became meaningless. The man who thought he'd lost everything was about to find what love and regret truly cost. The hospital corridors hummed with quiet urgency, beeping monitors, muted footsteps, the soft hum of air conditioning that never seemed to stop. Ethan Cross walked through them like a man made of stone. He wasn't here for sentiment. The billionaire CEO of Cross Enterprises had come to finalize a hospital partnership, another deal, another signature, another way to prove that control meant power. "Mr. Cross, the boardroom's this way," said Dr. Hayes, the hospital director, smiling nervously. Ethan nodded, checking his watch. Every second mattered. He'd built his empire by believing that time lost was weakness. But fate has a strange way of stealing time. As they passed through the pediatric wing, Ethan's steps slowed. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the faint sound of a child crying, or the way a nurse whispered something that made her voice break. He turned his head and stopped. A small boy lay in the ICU room, hooked up to oxygen tubes, his face pale but peaceful. A toy car rested beside his hand, worn and chipped from love. "Who's he?" Ethan asked, his voice low. The nurse hesitated. "ICU patient. Severe infection. We're waiting for a compatible blood donor." Ethan frowned. "You're short on donors." She nodded. "His mother's missing. We tried every contact on file. Nothing. No emergency contact. No relatives." Something inside Ethan stirred, a strange pull he couldn't name. He glanced at the chart on the bedside table. The name hit him like a knife. Patient, Liam Cross, age 5. He froze. Cross, the same surname. Coincidence? Maybe, but his pulse quickened anyway. He flipped the file open before the nurse could stop him. His eyes scanned the details. Blood type, B, the rare type he shared with only one person he'd ever known, Isabel, his ex-wife. His throat tightened. "Who's the mother?" The nurse looked at him, cautious. "The chart says Isabel Ward, but she hasn't been located yet. She signed the admission papers, then disappeared before the transfer." The world around him blurred. His mind raced back to that night 3 years ago. Her eyes, red from crying, the unsigned divorce papers on the table, her last words before she left. "You don't know what love costs, Ethan. And someday, you'll wish you did." He'd let her go, convinced she was walking away from his ambition. In truth, she was walking away with his son. "Mr. Cross." Dr. Hayes called gently. "Are you all right?" Ethan blinked, realizing his knuckles were white around the folder. "I want his full report. Now." The doctor hesitated. "You're not family, sir. Confidentiality." Ethan's gaze hardened. "I own half this hospital, doctor. Get me the report." Within minutes, the file was in his hands. DNA results pending. Condition critical. No next of kin confirmed. He stared at the sleeping child through the glass window, his chest heavy with something he hadn't felt in years. "Fear," he whispered, almost to himself. "If you're mine, I'll never let you suffer for my mistakes." Outside, rain started to fall, streaking the window in trembling lines. As if the sky itself couldn't hold back the tears Ethan refused to show. But deep down, a storm had begun. The man who once believed he could buy everything had just found something priceless. And this time, money couldn't save it. The rain outside hadn't stopped for 2 days. It pounded against the glass walls of Ethan's penthouse office like a cruel reminder of everything he couldn't control. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that small boy in the ICU, his pale face, the faint rise and fall of his chest, the photo clutched in his tiny hand. That photo haunted him. It was of Isabel, her smile soft, her hair tucked behind her ear, holding a baby he'd never met. He remembered the day they'd met, the warmth she brought into his world of steel and deadlines. She was a nurse, kind, selfless, the one person who dared to challenge his arrogance. And yet, he'd pushed her away. The night she signed the divorce papers, he was too proud to stop her. She had cried. He had poured another drink. By morning, she was gone now. 5 years later, she was missing, and the child bearing his name was fighting for his life. He called his assistant. Find her. I don't care how. Check every record, every hospital, every flight she's ever taken. I want Isabel Ward found. Hours passed. Then a knock on his door. Sir, his assistant said softly. We found her file in the hospital database. Ethan stood up so fast his chair tipped. Where? She was admitted 3 weeks ago. Car accident. Critical injuries. Transferred to a rural facility outside the city. She signed her son's admission papers before she collapsed. His heart sank. Where is she now? The assistant hesitated. The record says she never recovered enough to be discharged. Ethan didn't wait another second. Within hours, his black SUV sped through the storm, headlights slicing through sheets of rain. The hospital was small, worn paint, flickering lights, nothing like the polished corridors he was used to. He stormed in. Isabel Ward, where is she? A nurse led him down a quiet hall. She's been in recovery, sir, but she hasn't regained full consciousness. The accident caused severe trauma. When he entered the room, everything stopped. Isabel lay there, frail, with tubes running from her arm, her breathing shallow but steady. Her once glowing face was pale, her lips slightly parted, but even in weakness, she looked peaceful, like someone who'd fought every battle, and finally surrendered. Ethan's chest tightened. He walked to her bedside, his hand trembling as he brushed a strand of hair from her face. Isabel, he whispered, voice cracking for the first time in years. Why didn't you tell me? Her eyes fluttered, just for a second, and a faint tear slipped down her cheek. That single tear broke him. He sank into the chair beside her bed, his hand finding hers, cold and fragile. I thought you left because of me, because I wasn't enough, but you were fighting alone, and I never saw it. Outside the room, the nurse quietly stepped away. Ethan sat there for hours, the powerful billionaire who once commanded boardrooms, now waiting for one woman to open her eyes. For the first time, he didn't care about profits, meetings, or legacies. He only cared about one truth, that the woman he'd once lost had carried the proof of their love into the world. And that proof was lying in another hospital bed, fighting to live. The next morning, Ethan stood by Isabel's side as the doctor entered. Mr. Crass, the doctor said quietly, your son's condition is worsening. We may need a direct blood donor soon. Ethan nodded without hesitation. Test me. The doctor looked surprised. You're volunteering. Yes, he said firmly, eyes glistening, because I'm done losing the people I love. The needle slipped into his arm, cold and sharp, but Ethan barely felt it. He sat in the hospital's donation room, watching the slow, steady drip of his blood into the bag. It wasn't just a medical act, it was penance. Every drop carried regret for the years lost, the words unsaid, the love he'd buried beneath ambition. The nurse glanced at him. You sure you're okay, Mr. Cross? You've been sitting here a while. He gave a faint, tired smile. I've waited 5 years to do something that matters. I can wait a few more minutes. When it was done, he stood, feeling lighter, not just from the blood drawn, but from the weight he'd carried for years. He walked to the ICU, where little Liam lay surrounded by blinking monitors. The child's breathing was shallow, each rise of his chest fragile. Ethan placed his hand gently on the boy's tiny arm. Hang on, son, he whispered. You've got me now. It was the first time he'd said the word son aloud. It broke something inside him, and healed something else. Hours later, he sat in the waiting area outside Isabel's room. He hadn't moved for hours, afraid that if he left, she'd disappear again, like smoke through his fingers. Dr. Hayes approached quietly. The transfusion was successful. The boy's responding well. He's stable. Ethan's eyes closed. A silent tear escaped. Relief, gratitude, exhaustion, all at once. Thank you, he whispered. But the doctor didn't leave. His tone softened. There's more. Ms. Ward woke up. She's asking for you. Ethan's heart stopped. He rose instantly, the world spinning as he made his way to her room. When he entered, she was awake, pale but conscious. Her eyes still the same soft brown that once made him forget every boardroom in the world. She looked at him, confusion first, then emotion, then tears. Ethan. He stepped closer, careful, as if afraid she'd vanish again. I'm here, Isabel. I found him. Liam's safe. Her lips trembled. You shouldn't have to, don't, he cut in gently. Don't tell me what I should or shouldn't do. I should have been there from the start. I should have known. She turned her face away, tears spilling freely. You were too busy building an empire. I didn't want him to grow up invisible. Her words hit harder than any corporate betrayal ever could. He knelt beside her bed, his voice breaking. You were right. I built everything except the one thing that mattered. But if you give me a chance, even one, I'll spend the rest of my life proving I can be better." Her eyes softened. "You already started, Ethan. You gave him your blood, your life." He laughed quietly through his tears. "Guess it took almost losing you both to remember what love feels like." For a long moment, silence filled the room, not empty silence, but healing silence. Then she whispered, "He looks just like you when he sleeps." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then maybe there's hope for me after all." The monitors hummed softly, rain still falling outside. But inside that small hospital room, something powerful had shifted. Two souls, broken by pride, rebuilt by love, had found their way back through pain and forgiveness. Ethan reached out, holding Isabel's hand gently. "You don't have to face this alone anymore." She squeezed his fingers weakly, whispering, "Neither do you." For the first time in years, Ethan Cross, the billionaire who once thought emotion was weakness, realized that love wasn't something you bought or earned, it was something you bled for, and he had. Days passed, and the hospital that once felt like a graveyard of regrets slowly became a place of miracles. Liam was improving, color returning to his cheeks, strength to his tiny voice. Each morning, Ethan would visit his son before sunrise, reading to him from the same storybook Isabel used to love. "Did you read this to him?" he asked her one morning, sitting by her bed. Isabel smiled faintly. "Every night," he said, "the heroes reminded him of you." Ethan's throat tightened. "I don't deserve that." She shook her head gently. "He doesn't know the man you were, he only knows the man you are now." He looked at her, the woman who once carried all his dreams in her heart, even when he gave her nothing in return. She was still weak, her arm wrapped in bandages, but her eyes, they were strong. "Why didn't you tell me?" he finally asked. She sighed softly. "After I left, you didn't call, you didn't ask. You were everywhere, on magazine covers, at conferences, building towers. And I thought, maybe we were just another thing you'd outgrown." Ethan looked away. "You were never something to outgrow. I was just too blind to see what I had until it was gone." Silence fell between them, heavy but healing. Liam's laughter echoed faintly from down the hall, soft, innocent, pure. Ethan turned toward the sound, eyes shining. "He sounds like you." Isabel smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "No, he sounds like hope." Later that day, Ethan stood beside Liam's bed as the doctor entered. "Your son's recovering fast," Dr. Hayes said. "He'll be discharged soon. He's lucky to have you both." Ethan nodded, his heart swelling with pride and guilt. "He's lucky to have her," he said quietly. When Isabel was well enough to walk, Ethan arranged a small surprise. He took her and Liam to the hospital's rooftop garden, a place he'd donated to rebuild years ago, but never once visited. The evening sun painted the sky in gold and pink. Isabel pushed Liam's wheelchair, while Ethan walked beside them, unsure if he deserved this peace. Liam looked up at him. "Mom says you're the man who helped save me." Ethan knelt, meeting his eyes. "Your mom did all the saving. I just helped a little." The boy grinned shyly. "Can I call you something?" Ethan's heart pounded. "Anything you want." Liam hesitated, then whispered, "Dad." The word shattered the last wall Ethan had left around his heart. His eyes filled with tears as he pulled the boy into his arms, holding him tight as if making up for every bedtime story he'd missed, every memory he'd never had. Isabel watched silently, her own tears falling freely. For the first time, she saw the man she once fell in love with, not the cold billionaire, but the man who once loved her enough to dream of forever. As the sun dipped below the skyline, Ethan turned to her. "I don't expect forgiveness, but if you let me, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn it." She took a deep breath, stepping closer. "You don't have to earn what's already yours." He blinked, stunned. "Isabel." She smiled softly, placing her hand over his heart. "Just don't stop being this man." For the first time in years, Ethan Cross wasn't afraid of tomorrow. He'd built an empire, lost it all, and discovered something far greater. Family. As the lights of the city began to shimmer below them, Liam laughed again, and Isabel leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder. And the man who once measured life in profit margins finally learned to measure it in heartbeats. Months passed, and the world outside the hospital moved on, but for Ethan, time had slowed to something precious. His mornings began not with stock reports or conference calls, but with pancakes, laughter, and Liam's endless questions. He'd traded skyscrapers for storybooks, deadlines for bedtime hugs. And for once, he didn't miss the noise. The press had caught wind of the story. Billionaire CEO saves unknown child, turns out to be his own son. Ethan didn't care. For the first time, he wasn't hiding from the truth. Every photo, every headline, every whisper about his past. It all reminded him that second chances were real if you were brave enough to take them. One crisp autumn morning, he took Isabel and Liam back to the rooftop garden, the same place where everything had begun to heal. The city shimmered below, golden light spilling across the skyline. Isabel watched him quietly. "You've changed," she said softly. He smiled. "Maybe I finally became the man you believed I could be." She laughed gently. "You don't need to prove anything anymore, Ethan. Just stay." He took her hand, warm, alive, steady. "I plan to." From his pocket, he pulled out an envelope. Inside was a deed. "What's this?" she asked, frowning. "The new wing I'm funding at the hospital," he said. "It'll be called the Ward of Hope, named after the two people who taught me what it means." Her eyes welled up. "You don't have to." "I do," he said softly, "because it's not about money. It's about remembering how it all started with you, and the love I was too blind to fight for." She couldn't speak, she just nodded, tears streaming down her face. Liam tugged at Ethan's sleeve. "Dad, look," he said, pointing at the sky. A rainbow arched across the clouds. Faint, but clear. Isabel smiled through her tears. "He used to call rainbows miracles." Ethan looked at both of them, his voice quiet. "Then I guess I finally believe in miracles." He knelt, pulling them both into his arms. One arm around Isabel, the other around Liam. No words were needed. The silence between them was peace, the kind that comes after storms. After years of running, after learning what love truly means, Ethan had lost her once because he thought strength meant distance. Now he knew real strength was choosing to stay, even when it hurt. That night, as they walked home, Isabel slipped her hand into his. "Where do we go from here?" she asked softly. He smiled. "Home. Wherever you are, that's where it is." Under the city lights, their shadows merged. 3 hearts, one story. The billionaire who once thought love was weakness had finally discovered it was his greatest power, and as the night breeze carried their laughter through the streets, one truth echoed between them. Sometimes, love doesn't give you a second chance. It gives you a lifetime. He thought signing the divorce was the end, but destiny had other plans. When a billionaire CEO walked into the ICU, expecting a routine visit, he never imagined finding the woman he once loved, and the child he never knew existed. This story isn't just about loss and love, it's about redemption, forgiveness, and the miracle of second chances. Sometimes, life brings you back to the one you let go, not to start over, but to finally make things right. Watch till the end to feel every heartbeat, every tear, and every moment of hope in the billionaire who walked into the ICU and found his family waiting. Subscribe for more emotional millionaire stories that touch the soul and remind us, even the coldest hearts can heal when love finds its way back.